We all face a living cost crisis. Our NHS have a long queue and all of us suffering from that. Our education and our social service underfunded. We know that. But of course, on the other hand, we know who is responsible about this. This is not migrant, not Muslim definitely. The wrong system. So we know where is the problem and we target. We didn't need to be distracted at this time. In this difficult time, we need to unite together. We need to be together to defeat it together. So because of this, we called the fascists and told them, migrant is not your problem. Migrants are to this country. Migrants are a value to this country. They are not taken from you. The system who is responsible about all of this. As I said at the beginning, one of the amazing things in this crowd, seeing the number of the trade union behind us, the number of the trade unions supporting anti-fascist, anti-racist movement. I'm very proud now to call my coming speaker, Vicky Jackson. He is representing of PCS National Executive Committee. Thank you for being here today.
I'm Vijay. I'm on the National Executive Committee and Scottish Executive Committee of PCS Union, the Union for Civil Servants and Allied Workers, and I'm also the Political Education Officer of Edinburgh Central COP. We're here because we want to defeat the far right, because we want history to repeat itself, and because this week our communities have been imminently threatened with violence. Terrifying crowds of rioters out to attack mosques, hotels housing asylum seekers, offices of immigration lawyers, charities and more. But we can't defeat the rising far right unless we understand it. Clearly, not every rioter was an ideologically grounded fascist, or we'd have an even more dangerous problem. Many appeared to be opportunistic looters and thugs. But every rioter was there because they had been told someone else was their enemy. Asylum seekers, Eastern Europeans, illegal immigrants, Muslims, trans people. We have had decades of demonization of minorities by the right-wing media, and 14 years of an increasingly right-wing Conservative government that not only fueled these attacks with their rhetoric, but enacted them in legislation. This is the natural culmination of the hostile environment, but it is the culmination of austerity too. Of the 23 areas where riots have happened, almost all had well above average levels of deprivation, and 7 were in the top 10 deprived areas in the country. The parallels to the poverty of the 1930s are obvious. When you take away secure employment and unionization, when pay stagnates and falls, when educational opportunities dwindle, when health outcomes drop off and inequality skyrockets, then out of the breeding ground of desperation and disillusionment, people will grasp for an alternative, one that Farage or Robinson or even Andrew Tate or Elon Musk are happy to provide. In the immediate term, in the weeks and months ahead, we will stand up to fascists and confront them wherever they try and strike. We will defend our brothers and sisters and show them our solidarity. But we must recognise that the task we face is not one that can be accomplished solely by scaring off some skinheads. We need to fight the far right with socialism, with our ideas and our policies. We need to build the only movement that can end the far right, the Labour movement. And we need the new Labour government to not triangulate or concede to whatever narrative the leadership think is electorally popular or the path of least resistance. In America, the spectre of Trump looms large again. But even the defeat of Trump at the ballot box will only damage and not defeat Trumpism and the project of the right in the years ahead. The same can be said now of the ousting of the Tories. Complacency and austerity-light economics will open the door to the growth of fascism in the future. Across Europe, the far right are on the march, and governments we might consider social democratic or centrist are failing to stop them, failing to stop the AfD in Germany, National Rally in France, Vox in Spain. The far right are the government under Meloni in Italy, Orban in Hungary, and Putin in Russia. And here too, they have got themselves a foothold in reform, MPs who will be mouthpieces for hate.
We must not let the same demagogues, populists and dictators keep pushing their agendas, whether they are anti-abortionists overturning Roe versus Wade or anti-migrant bigots arguing for and winning a Brexit referendum. Broadly, all those I've mentioned share a nationalist worldview, but the fact those parties do not have a cohesive ideology or set of policies between them does not matter, as long as they agree who their enemies are: migrants, women, LGBTQ people, or organised unionised workers who stand up for their rights. The other day, I was having a conversation with a friend that stuck with me. They were expressing their fear of how good the far right, in particular the alt-right, have gotten at self-promotion and recruitment online. Their production of slick videos, graphics and memes, all with a darkly mesmerising aesthetic. Their propagandising of racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, all aided by algorithms pushing content detected to be popular among a demographic. And their targeted befriending and grooming of disaffected young men into their ranks through various social media platforms and forums. My friend also expressed their disappointment that at least when it comes to the use of the internet, the left has failed to be as effective. And I think they have a point, but that way of thinking betrays something larger. And it isn't that the methods of the right can never be used against them, because to bring us back to why we are here, we are standing here today because of a similarly successful mobilisation, shared on Facebook pages and through WhatsApp groups. But mobilisation only gets you so far. It only brings out the people already on our side. And what it betrays is that our task is more difficult, because we have to not only mobilise, but organise, agitate and educate. Because our political programme can't be enacted through the methods of the right. We can't market and rebrand our way to socialism. We can't persuade and convince people of our ideas and policies through the avenues of the right. We don't have newspapers or think tanks funded by billionaires to pump out our narrative. We don't have, we can't make up lies, disinformation and conspiracies to attack a rotating gallery of enemies to suit the moment. We have to tell the truth. We have to build our own institutions, our own unions, our own labour movement, proudly internationalist, feminist, anti-racist, anti-imperialist and anti-fascist. We have to inspire people that a new and better world is possible. Not only possible, but better than hope alone, possible through the collective agency of our conscious and organised efforts to bring it about. That we can achieve emancipation from capitalist exploitation and drudgery, from war, from hunger, from misery. That we can be in charge of the decisions affecting our own lives in our workplaces and communities. That we can tackle the problems that capitalism has created and is incapable of solving, like the climate crisis. And even in the short term, that it is possible to make vast improvements in our society and directly to our material conditions by taxing the rich and corporations, through redistributing the enormous wealth that we have created, and by properly funding housing, healthcare, education and public services. To be convinced that socialism requires a political and economic education, and to be a class struggle fight for socialism requires, as Gramsci put it, the pessimism of the intellect and the optimism of the will. But to be convinced of the road that leads to fascism, it requires no more than the dejection of the belief that things may get worse, but at least it won't be as bad if you get rid of the person over there, the one that's stealing your share or holding you back. To be a fighter for the far right doesn't require you to think for yourself. It only requires you to follow someone else, to believe in someone else's political project, even though it's against your own interests. We must fight fascism on all fronts, and I know that we can and will fight the far right in the streets if we must, but we can only defeat fascism by fighting the conditions of injustice and squalor that now, as a century ago, are feeding it. Thank you.
Totally agree with you. If we didn't want to see ourselves in a position like other European countries like France, like Italy, I think we need to act today. We need to act now. I believe that many people are keep saying we shouldn't go out, we shouldn't want to confront the far right. I disagree with this. I totally disagree with this. When we stand up to racism, we make it very clear. Whenever they show up, we will show up. Whenever they try to mobilize, we mobilize. We will stop them. We will not let them to own our streets.
And we keep saying, who's the street? Our street! Who's the street? Who's the street? Who's the street? And we keep saying, refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Now let me to introduce my coming speaker. Willie Black. Willie Black is from trade union community. I think he is a well-known face for many of you. Willie.
I saw the other night there something on Facebook which I thought was very good and very useful. When we saw Tommy Robertson lying in that pool, lounging, lying on his airbed in the pool in Cyprus, it said Tommy was lying in the pool, but Nigel Farage was lying on the TV. And I think that that was appropriate, because I was thinking, Nigel Farage, you know, he's the second most guest on Question Time. The second most guest, the one that they call when they've got an empty seat. They also paid him 1.2 to 1.5 to appear on their tellies in I Want to Be a Celebrity or whatever the program is. It's apparent that the people, and I've said this, and I want to congratulate the West Midland Church Council, who last night, along with others, called for a mobilisation to defend the asylum seekers in the hotel in Bathgate. The scale of what we require now is huge. You see, I can remember, because I'm an old age perisher, that what's happened is that we had 10,000 people marching from Hillside Crescent to a concert in Craigmillar in the 80s to defeat a small group, or the National Front at that time. We built the A&L in Scotland, as well as all over the place. We built it on the basis of going out. Now, what is the consequence or rumour that the far right, some of the press came to see me the day and talked to me, among others, and said, have you heard that they're coming to Edinburgh today? Who's that? The far right. What should we be doing? Getting in your cars, going to the M8 or the M9 or the A1 and stand there and wait for them to come? No, we have to be mobilising in a different way. Yes, we need to stand up to them, but we have trade unions in communities. And what's the purpose of that? Some of us decided about a couple of years ago that we needed to be with people who are at the rough end of the society that we live in. We wanted to people who were in fuel poverty, in general poverty, to know that the trade unions were with them. We weren't standing back just on the basis. It's great when trade unions win, and they win wages and terms, and they defend us. But the 6 million used to be 13. Every workplace had trade unionists who were the barrier, who were fed and educated by the trade unions to stand up to those who say it's them instead of it's them. It's easy to pick on your neighbour. I had a consequential last night at Bathgate. Some local people come up for Whitburn and other areas, and they said these young men in there are going out at night. Okay, But they added, but they are a danger to us. They're a danger to our children. They're a danger to young men, sex, all that kind of stuff. So I brought over 2 Kurdish refugees to have a blather with them. And I'll have to tell them they were very charming to the women. And I said to them, this is not true. We've had to flee this, and this. We've had to come all over the place to end up in Bathgate. Can you imagine the leaflets that are going about Baghdad and all that stuff? There's a wonderful place called Bathgate, just outside Edinburgh. Come on that way. Get in a boat. Get in the back of your lorry, and you can end up in Bathgate. And I love Bathgate, by the way, but that's not another thing. The thing is that we need to build it. This is now a new scale that's required. A new scale of mobilisation. In every locality in Edinburgh and all the other parts of Edinburgh, Scotland, we need a different kind of mobilisation. We need rallies. We need marches. But you know what we need? We need to talk to people. We need to counteract what's going on in their heads, what they're being fed. Because those people in Bathgate, weren't they hard racist? They were racist, but they weren't hard racist. And if they become hard racists, then everything that we organise, whether it's trade unions, whether it's paper sales, whether it's marches for Palestine, other things like that, we will now be challenged. And I just heard, and I'll finish on this, somebody said that the word has went out to the third sector, to the people that work with asylum seekers. Lock your doors. I say the opposite. I say open your bloody doors. Now that's hard. That's a hard thing to say, because the rumour, like the rumour that the press said to me, do you know that they're coming to Edinburgh today? Yeah, maybe, who knows? Most of those rumours are untrue, but we need to have at the local level so that we can move fast. Not moving by 3/4 of the people coming from Edinburgh to Bathgate, but building in Bathgate and Whitburn and the other areas. That's the message. We've been too late, but we didn't have to be late every day. We can mobilise on a different scale, mass leafleting. We have a parade, I nearly called it a demonstration, in Craigmillar, but we're having a parade for the high flats to a fun day. The trade unions and communities have got food, bric-a-brac, clothes for children and adults. We've got music, we've got a park, we've got a bandstand, and we've been leafleting and mobilising to bring the local communities and the local organisations together. But if it was just for one day, then we would be making a mistake. It would be great. It's a great day. And by the way, the weather's going to be brilliant. Even though if you look at the weather, it looks like it's going to rain. It's not true, right? Certainly not up in Craigmillar. It's always sunny in Craigmillar. So come next week. Come on the 17th. Come on at 10 o'clock. Take part in the parade. I believe the drummers are going to be there, so we're going to have rhythm. In communities in North Edinburgh, Western Wales, Craigmillar, Tollcross, Southside, everywhere. We need to put up placards and banners and flags, and they will know that we are about. And if they mobilise, then we're mobilised, and we are going to defeat them on the streets. I'll shift it.
Thankfully, totally agree with you. Whenever they show up, we need to mobilize. If they show up in 10, we need to be 100. If they show up in 100, we need to be 1,000. 7th of September is the day the far right announced together in Glasgow. And maybe Tommy Robson will show up. So we will say in 7th of September, you are not welcome in Scotland. I want to ask all of you to join us in 7th of September, should show them we are the majority. Stand Up to Racism in Edinburgh is organizing to go to Glasgow together. So please, if you plan to go, please put your name and your contact in our stall and we will be in connect. I hope to see maybe million of us on the street 7th of September to stop the far right in Glasgow. As I said before, we are the majority. We are the real representative for the British society. We are so glad to hear from the trade union leaders, and also we are so glad to have many political parties with us today. So please, all of you, welcome with me, a Labour Councillor for Leeds, Katrina Frensky. Thank you for having you today, Katrina.
Thank you all, and I want to thank everybody who has come here today to show that we are the many. And I think it's really a duty for all of us as elected representatives to actually come out on demonstrations like this, especially since so many people right now are feeling frightened, they're feeling scared, they're feeling under threat. And I can see that there are many of my colleagues from Edinburgh Council here today as well, and we will be standing with all of you in that fight. But let us be under no doubt, this has been planned. And at the heart of these riots are those who benefit from division. And we know in the Labour movement that these fascist thugs do not represent our communities. Here in Edinburgh, we have a history of opening our doors to folk from around the world, and we're going to keep doing that. There are many councillors, as I said, and we take that message into the council and into our communities. But my message to everyone is this: if you're struggling to make ends meet, or you're forced to use a food bank, or you're living in a damp house, and the public services are struggling, it's not the fault of the vulnerable people forced into the hands of people smugglers. It's the fault of a failed system. It's a system where money is hoarded by billionaires. And comrades and friends, we need to stand together. So I'm going to end here. And keep it short and say that we should stand in solidarity, and we send that message to every corner of Edinburgh, into our communities. Solidarity.
Thank you, Katrina. Short speech, but full of soul, full of strong words. Thank you for being here today with us. As I said, we are representing the majority. We are representing different trade unions and different political parties. So please, all of you, welcome with me Tommy Shepard. He is a speaker on behalf of SNB.
Thank you. Thank you, my friends. I'm so proud of you, as ever, for mobilizing at such short notice to show the true spirit and character of this great capital city. Just 5 weeks ago, we had an election in this country where many of us fought campaigns against each other. And what is so good today is to see people from the Labour Party, the Green Party, Liberal Democrats, the SNP, and indeed comrades from the SWP and other parties who didn't take part in that election, but they are all here today united to say we will not be divided. Because this is the time when decent people and civilized people must close ranks against those who would try and turn our communities against each other. And my first challenge would be to the mainstream media, many sections of which still present this as an argument of two halves between two legitimate points of view. It is not. It is an argument. It is an argument between a small, violent, organised right-wing minority who want to do harm and cause death and injury to our fellow citizens, and those who will stand in their way. And I hope that the vast majority of people, and I know the vast majority of people in the city, will stand in their way. But we must also, as other speakers have said, understand where this has come from. This has not been weeks or months in the making. This has been years and decades in the making, where the political narrative in this country has been allowed to go unchallenged that says immigration is a bad thing. Immigration is a threat to the people who already live here. It is a lie. It has always been a lie. And we need to say that loud and clear. In every case throughout human history where people have migrated from one country to another, it has been to the benefit of the country to which they go. It is in our interests. It is in all of our interests that our borders should be open and that people should be allowed and encouraged to come and make their lives here. And the type of new Scotland I want to see and that my party wants to build will welcome people from all over the world who want to come and make this their home and make this their country. But it is important, my friends, it is important also that we give the people who are being seduced by these arguments, by those who will say that you must attack not the rich, but those who are just a little bit poorer and a little bit less well off than you are. For centuries, the ruling class has used racism to divide the poor amongst themselves to stop them attacking the rich. And I'll tell you what, if this new government of the United Kingdom is looking for billions to bolster the public finances, then the clue is in the word itself. If you're looking for billions, you go after billionaires. That is where you're going to find the money. Taking 400 quid off pensioners on 12 grand a year is not going to get the resources that we need to actually build the type of society and the fair and equal society that all of us want to see. So my friends, well done and thank you so much for being here. This is the first of what will have to be a great number of mobilizations in the weeks and months ahead. But the people watching this on the video shots and on all the news sites where it comes, they should be aware of one thing. We are not going to stop. We are not going to give up until we defeat the fascists and the racists in this country and send them back under the rocks where they belong. Thank you.
What was your thoughts about the election? What was your input of the ask me after that, no problem.
Definitely, will be more of us if they show up until we defeat them. Thank you. If I can ask the people just to come forward, because a lot of people are here today. Thank you. Thank you. So please, welcome with me our coming speaker. He is a co-leader of the Scottish Green Party and also he is a member of the Scottish Parliament. So Patrick, nice to have you today.
you. Thank you so much. And thank you all for the opportunity to be with so many people this morning who join the dots, who understand the connections between the issues that have been raised today. We wake up daily and we see news of another billionaire manipulating the US election, or we see news of more brutality by a far-right ethno-state against the people of Palestine. And we see the growth. And we see the growth and the deliberate boosting of far-right racist and fascist views in this country. And we understand that these are not separate stories in our media. These are pages in the same story. They are deeply connected. And it's important that we leave an event like this feeling the power that comes from being with so many people who understand the connection, who understand that these are not separate issues. They are one struggle, and they are one struggle that we will and must win. As a member of this Parliament for many years now, one of the appallingly regular frustrations is when somebody comes to me with a constituency issue. They're a refugee or they're an asylum seeker. They're still working their way through that system, and they need access to healthcare or to education or to housing, or they've experienced a hate crime and they're looking for an MSP to help them, as we would any other constituent. These are our constituents. But because they're involved in the asylum system, because they're treated separately than the entire rest of the human species by a UK government that seeks to dehumanise them, we're not even allowed to speak up for them. The UK government won't speak to them at all, speak to us at all about their constituency issues when we ask for help, when we try to get help for them. It's incredibly frustrating. It's one of the most painful things, because even if I seek to write on someone's behalf, a refugee who's been through hell and back before they got here, even if I try to advocate on their behalf, I have no idea if I'm helping them or harming their case by bringing it to the attention of a UK government that simply wants rid of them. And over decades, government after government after government in the UK has ratcheted up that system, making it more brutal, more inhumane, more abusive of people's basic humanity and their human rights. But despite that, all through those years I have also had the privilege of seeing something utterly inspiring. Because all your politicians have continually ratcheted up an ever more racist immigration system and an ever more brutal asylum system. And even though for decades so much of the media have been bombarding our population with racist propaganda and anti-migrant and anti-asylum propaganda, in every part of this country you will find communities coming together, reaching out with a hand of solidarity, of respect, of compassion and love, despite decades of that racist propaganda. And I think it's because, I genuinely think it's because that human instinct of respect is innate within all of us. It is stronger than the hatred that those who are seeking to cultivate it are having to try to manipulate us into. That basic human respect, when you see someone fall down, your natural instinct is to reach out and offer a hand of help and of friendship. And that is what our society should be proud of being able to do on a global level. To be in a position in this poor, benighted world, to be in a position to be asked for asylum, that is to be privileged. That's not what it is to bear a burden, to be asked to give asylum. This is one of the wealthiest countries there's ever been on the surface of this planet.
We're in a position to offer that help, and the only reason that it doesn't feel to so many like one of the wealthiest countries on the face of this planet is because so much of that wealth is being hoarded by the people who didn't produce it in the first place. We've heard a lot of the phrase legitimate concerns over the last few days and weeks. Yes, there are some bad people out there, but there are also people with just legitimate concerns. Well, do you know what? I think that's right, because when what we saw in the days after the violence was people coming out on the streets in vastly bigger numbers, peacefully, to say we will not stand for this, coming out in a spirit of solidarity and love and friendship with their neighbour. Those are the people with legitimate concerns in this country, and we need governments that listen. So as a new set of ministers begin their work down south at the UK government, the message to them must be clear. The demand on them must be clear to end this failed approach of constantly ratcheting things up to more brutality, more racism. Pandering to racism has never defeated racism. It's failed in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Spain, in the Netherlands. It has failed in the UK as well. Pandering to racism will never defeat it. Only naming it and confronting it will defeat it. That's what we're going to do, and I'll see you all in Glasgow.
Thank you, Patrick, for these strong words. I'm also a refugee in this country. I decided to make Scotland my second home, like many other people. Honestly speaking, I feel very welcome in the last 5 years. Because of this, and this is what I'm talking about. We are the majority, and they are the minority. So, let me please to introduce my coming speaker. Tess Loughley. He is a representative of Edinburgh Trade Union Council.
Thank you. Like all of you, I was very disturbed to read the activities of the far right in the last couple of weeks in England. But it brought back memories. It brought back memories of the far right and activities in Edinburgh in the 1970s. I was involved with Edinburgh Trade Union Council in picketing a public meeting that the far right had, and they booked a room in the assembly rooms to have their meeting. That was allowed at that time. And we had a picket outside it, and we were threatened with knives by the National Front. And why was the National Front here in Edinburgh? They were here in Edinburgh because they saw that there was support for their racism and xenophobia in Edinburgh. And they were making an appeal in those days to sectarians. So we had quite a battle in Scotland at that time. And the battle got so bad is that as Secretary of Edinburgh Trade Union Council, I had to have police protection. Not only police protection for myself, but police protection for my family as well. Because one of the tactics of the far right at that time, and I can see it happening again, is that they made telephone threats against my family. If they saw someone was active or prominent in the anti-racist fight, that's the way they intimidated people, by threats not against them directly necessarily, but against their family. So it's really worrying to see the things they were doing down in England, not only targeting asylum places, hotels where there were asylum seekers, but also targeting mosques, also targeting voluntary organisations which provided services to Muslims, ethnic minorities, asylum seekers and refugees, such as solicitors, law centres, CABs, etc., etc. Now that could happen in Edinburgh. There's a reservoir of racism in Scotland and Edinburgh which we have to be aware of and we have to prepare to fight against. I was reading the general election that the Reform Party got 7% of the vote in Scotland. that translates into 169,000 votes in Scotland. And it translates into probably 20,000 votes in Edinburgh and the Lothians. We have to be aware that this reservoir of support for racism, not only in England, but also in Scotland. And I think other people have said today that we need to go out in the community to fight against racism and to show that their ideas about xenophobia and being anti-immigration are all wrong. The Scottish Government has said that one of the first meetings I had with Keir Starmer was to say that in Scotland we want people to come to this country. It's essential to the economic success and health of Scotland. We need to get that message across to people in Edinburgh, right across the community. So, Edinburgh Trade Union Council is having a meeting on Tuesday, next Tuesday, and we're going to discuss what we do to fight racism. That means supporting rallies like this, it means supporting pickets, but it also means reaching out in solidarity to organisations and people and groups that have been threatened by the far right. So I'm going to recommend we write to all the mosques in Edinburgh. I believe there are 3 mosques in Edinburgh. And we're going to say to them, if you get threatened, let us know. And if we need protection, by that I mean people standing outside showing their support, we will be there. We will ask the whole trade union movement to be there. And if there's any organisation in Edinburgh that, for example, provides a service to refugees or asylum seekers, we're asking them if they get threatened, if they feel worried, if they feel unsafe, we will be there to protect them. I don't want to see in Edinburgh, and I'm sure none of you want to see in Edinburgh, what apparently has happened in places like Rotherham. The organisations that provide support to asylum seekers and refugees have had to close down their offices. The police have told them to work from home. And no wonder if the situation gets like that, people get very worried about the safety of themselves and their families. So we should be aware that we may need to provide, even in Edinburgh, that type of solidarity. The other thing I think, what the far right are doing, is a challenge to not only us, the trade union labour movement, but also the Scottish Parliament, the City Council and the UK Parliament. So one of the things I'm going to recommend to Edinburgh TUC next week is that we write to all these set politicians saying they need to do more. Like, for example, they need to fund more anti-racist activities. They need to encourage, officially, more anti-racist activities. I know I'm going on a deputation to the City Council on, I think it's the 29th of August, because there's debating the Edinburgh tourist tax. Well, you may think that the tourist tax has got nothing to do with the fight against the far right, but actually the council's not planning to spend any money against poor employment practices in Edinburgh in terms of using the tourist tax. I think that's wrong, because I think one of the reasons behind the upsurge of the far right is that people feel they've been left behind, being left out. They're living in poverty and they're being treated unfairly and less favourably than migrant workers. We have to make sure that we show to everyone in Edinburgh that we're going to treat them well, that we're going to fight for a decent standard of living for all. I don't think I've got time to go into all the details, but I would urge every one of you as a constituent in Edinburgh to write to the MP, MSP and Council and say, even just saying that you support the fight against the far right, and say to them that we urge you to take this seriously and get you, your parliaments and the council to do more. I think everyone can do that by email, and I would urge you to do it because public opinion in this struggle really counts. It influences our neighbours, etc. Now, I happen to be a chair of a community council in Edinburgh, it's Longston Community Council, and we're meeting soon. And I'm going to raise this issue as a community council, we've been anti-racist before, we've said things, and I'm going to say it. We should say things to our people, put on a notice board that we are opposed to the far right, and we don't want their activities, their violence and racist activities to come to Edinburgh, and everyone should do everything to stop them. Thanks for listening to me. I don't want to say any more because I've just been repeating what other people said. Thanks.
Thank you, Des. My coming speaker is a musician, he is activist, he is Joseph Malik, he is with us today. Thank you.
Hello, Edinburgh. I'm not a politician. I'm just a normal person just like you. And I've been fighting racism since the 80s. I've fought the National Front, the BNP, skinheads, EDL, all of them. And the one thing that they all have in common, they're the most spineless billies motherfuckers you've ever met in your life. You know why? Because they pick on the weak. They will never face down 10 black guys or 10 Asian guys. They pick on the families on their own. They pick on the stragglers going home. That's the bravery of them. But watching what happened around the country yesterday when people stood up, especially my colleagues called me from Brighton to say that trannies and gays had chased them out, smashed them on the head with their handbags. That's how brave they are. But the most sickening thing I've seen them done was use the deaths of those 3 young girls, to use that death, to use their violence and their evil against people, is the most disgusting, despicable thing they've ever stood to. My speech is pretty short, and I'm going to leave you with these words. How can a refugee go back home when Britain and America is bombing the shit out of their countries? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joseph. My last but not least speaker. He is from Palestinian Democratic Forum. He is a leader of Palestinian campaign. I think many of you know the Palestinian movement in this country for now more than 10 months. So Dr. Issam Hijami, we are so lucky to have you between us today.
Hello, friends. I know that the Palestinian cause or the Palestinian flag is very familiar to you here in Scotland. But in this particular occasion, I wanted to thank the people who are raising the Palestinian flag for a reason, specific reasons here. Towards the end of June, I was being invited to address the pro-independent movement all under one banner in Bannockburn. And as we've been gathering to start our march, myself and few friends, we've been raising the Palestinian flag. And one guy passed by saying, "This is Scotland, not Palestine." Shame. Last Saturday, in our weekly event regarding what's happening in Gaza, which was in front of the National Museum, as I was speaking, addressing the crowd, a German Nazi passed by and assaulted me. Shame. I know for sure, proving your presence, that the far right, the fascists, the Zionists, they are very minute minority in Scotland. So be proud of yourself. We know that. But this small minority, in terms of racism and fascism, It is not incidental. Tommy Robinson, for your knowledge, who advocated of this hate ideology, went to serve in the Israeli army. So this is the connection between the far right in this country, the fascist, the racist, and the settler colonial state of Israel and its ideology of Zionism. And this is why, as Palestinians, we are aware of that. And we advocated our independence from the very start of our occupation by Britain after the First World War, a country in Palestine for all its people, without hatred, without discrimination, without racism. But the other side, the Zionist movement, probably many of you heard 3 weeks ago, the Israeli parliament, they voted in a decision which they won in a huge majority that will never be a Palestinian state in the territories occupied in 1967 in Palestine. So this is what we are facing. So to bring things to home, the UK government, in declaring that they are against and doing their best to face the far right and the racist movement in this country, they are lying. One of my colleague speakers, I think Tommy Shepard, he said that immigration is a right. I'm going further than that. In 2016, I launched a campaign called Balfour Declaration Centenary Campaign, commemorating 100 years in 2nd of November 1917, when Balfour issued his declaration giving and advocating for a Jewish state in Palestine. After that, I am a doctor by profession, and I'm suspended at the moment for 5 years, accused of having relationship with the Irish Republican movement. But that's not true. That's the formal allegation. But from the paper disclosed by the public prosecution, they've been after me, watching me 24 hours because I launched the Balfour Declaration. And this is what to do with our gathering today. The UK government are afraid to face their colonialist past and hold them responsible to their imperialism. And when they're talking about immigration, there is 56 countries in the world who've been subjected to direct colonialization by the Brits. So immigration, it is not the right. They have to face the consequences, which is still going on, of their colonization of 2/3 of the world. Again, as I told you, I'm a doctor by profession. The elite of this country who trying to convince the ordinary people of the working class that the immigrant, they're coming here to steal your jobs and the misery you are living in because of migration. I will give you a concrete figure. In the NHS, despite all its shameless situation and condition, as all our public service, 37% of the doctors who are working in the NHS are people, non-white, came fully qualified from abroad. That's the truth. And the misery in the NHS not because of the immigrants. It's because of the long-standing policy in this country for the very few elites to exploit the people, the working class, but in the same time to put them in fight against the people who have the right to come and to live decent and humane and proud in this country. So this deceptive ideology trying to hide the truth from you. But again, the ordinary people, they know the truth. They know they are standing. That immigration is making our society much more rich, much more diverse, and we are willing to be part of this society, making our part. So thank you for coming to show your solidarity. And just to remind you that at 1 o'clock, here we're holding our weekly event this today at the front of the museum at Shepard Street. Thank you. And hope to see you there.
I just want a quick word to find out what your thoughts were on the election. My name's David. Do you remember before, you helped me when I was stuck for 2 years in Dubai. I was held for 2 years. I was attacked and you helped, you were trying to help. Do you remember? Vaguely. David Valentine. Nice to meet you. So we'll just want a quick...
Thank you, all of you.
Is there not a lot of said after the last speaker, Tony? She said that was the last speaker. That's why I came over.
I can estimate the number of us is more than 1,000, I think. This is just show us how bold and a
So
lot
that's I don't want
we
to
are
make
the
it complex.
majority.
I just wanted to, I
Stand
know
up
on
to
my
this is
political
call for
channel,
this
and what
national
I
demo
just want to
day
know is what
all
the thoughts
around
were
the country.
on the
And as
election
I see from the
and the
pictures,
outcome of the election.
thousands
It's
of
quite a
people
simple.
honestly
I know, I understand
now
what I've
in
written
many cities
extensively
in
on
this
it.
country
Well, just
to stop
can you
the
just tell us your
riot,
sort
to
of
stop the hate, stop
Tell
the
him.
violence, stop the
Have a look at your
Islamophobia.
website. Okay, so
So
that's fine. Thank
for
you.
everyone.
Thank you. We'll soon So, I'm not quite sure if you're given the opportunity as a politician, you want to actually potentially offer some sort of explanation or something that you want to discuss about, but he's written on the website. Oh well. So, not quite sure. I'm not quite sure that synopsis was that terrific, but we will we'll put this up, let the people see what they've said, and see what the individuals believe in, see what they've thought of those speeches. It seems like they were saying, if you don't believe in me, Scotland's not for you, by people who have immigrated here. So, and as you know, we all think, well, that again is quite a far left crowd, that's a very far left crowd. So, one of the things they didn't touch on was the Labour councillor who had been kicked out of Labour for saying that there was attacks on Scottish children, pupils and teachers in Glasgow. She got kicked out the Labour Party. Now, I might actually go in a bigger depth. I don't know if this is true or not, or what area it was. But they were saying that immigrant children were attacking not just pupils but also teachers. And then the Labour Party then kicked her out. And people are complaining about two-tier policing from the other side. And now they're actually kicking out, if you don't believe with them, if you don't believe the synopsis that they put forward, then it's not legitimate, apparently. So only if you believe in their globalist, non-nationalist opinions, should you be getting a voice. And that seemed a bit... It seems like that we've got a bunch of extreme lefties in power, and it feels like we're following almost the... the Iranian model, where the left want Islamists in power, and that's it. So the SNP then would not be a nationalist party, there'd be a globalist party. So it doesn't, none of the stuff that they say really makes sense. And he didn't do very much for me, neither did any of the SNP that have now lost their seats. So Tommy Shepard, starving on the streets in Dubai, didn't bring it up in the Parliament. And there's probably a major problem with these individuals from the fact that they're still unredone WhatsApps. So the police, we're basically getting a situation. How you doing, mate? Basically getting a situation where oh, right, so, no, it was what about? Oh, no, how? No, it was don't worry about it, mate, don't worry. I was talking, oh, right, I see. I was talking about MPs, mate. I don't think you got MPs, aye. It's about the WhatsApps. They didn't hand in the WhatsApps. So we don't... some guy, I think I was talking about the fuzz about them. So, no, so it's WhatsApp's not handed in. So basically what the left have done, what the left are doing, is trying to create an atmosphere that calling everything racist, but what is hiding behind this anti-racist stuff, and people may not know this, is that the Socialist Workers' Party, which was commented down there, are an extreme Trotsky-esque organisation. So, and that was commented down there as well. They stood in solidarity with the Greens, the Green Party, the Socialist Workers' Party, and others. And when I went to the Stand Up to Racism thing, it was trade unionists who were not from here. They were, I think they were Irish, I think, if I can remember. And they were talking about the anti-racist thing. So anti-racist is now becoming a catch-all for anybody that disagrees with the far left, and which again comes from Trotsky's book. So a lot of these people must be on the authoritarian left. I'm not even... Trotsky might have been a little bit on the libertarian left. Not quite sure if he was a libertarian or part of the authoritarian. Don't forget he was with Stalin, who murdered hundreds of thousands of people. So, So, de facto, what the Greens were there the SNP were there, and Labour were there. So all three are de facto saying that they want open door immigration. That's basically what the take was from that. Anyway,